order. The Science, Innovation and Technology Committee is in session. We're very pleased to welcome today the Secretary of State for the Department, Michelle Donnellan, and Sarah Mumby, her Permanent Secretary. Both witnesses were appointed in February this year when the new department was created. Very grateful for the time this morning to answer some questions in two sections. We're going to talk first of all about artificial intelligence and then secondly, more generally, about the work of the department. Before we begin, I just want to welcome Dr. James Davis, MP to our committee, who was appointed by resolution of the House this week. He is very welcome. James Davis and then Graham Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. Returning to the AI white paper and the government's response to the consultation exercise, do you expect that the AI Safety Institute will have a role in that?
So they are a part of the department, and they certainly support, as other civil servants and officials do. And there are sections of that response, without me sort of detailing exactly what's in it before it's published, that relate to the institute, in which they will have fed in to.
Okay. Thank you very much. And in terms of the institute, do you expect its remit to expand over time? Question to either or both of you, really.
What we've said it's basically got three core functions. First of all, to evaluate, and we've spoken at length about that, and that is really important. And then secondly, around research, to make sure that we can stay at the top of the pack in terms of understanding the risks. And then also about information exchange, to be able to support other countries. As I said before, this is very much about internationally us working together, which was at the heart of the summit. But I do think that we will constantly have to evaluate the work of the Institute and what else it should or shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. And again, that speaks to the heart of what our approach here is to be very agile. This is an emerging technology. It's emerging quicker than any technology we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we need to make sure that our systems and processes can keep pace with that, mm-hmm. and respond to those changes where needed.
Okay. Thank you. Now, at the autumn statement, there was further funding for the UK AI research resource, and I wondered if you could update the committee on preparations relating to that, and when you might expect the first research projects to get underway.
Yeah, so this is basically our compute capacity, mm-hmm. and there's several lines of funding of what we've secured. So one of those is the AI research resource that we'd already funded, and that's going to be based in Bristol, and that will come on stream in about summer next year. Mm-hmm. And we're just working out the details of how that would be accessed. And we're talking about increasing our compute capacity by at least 10 to 100. So it will be game changing. Mm-hmm. There's also going to be a facility that will come on stream within a few weeks, and that will be in Cambridge. Mm-hmm. And then we have our Exascale programme, which is 900 million, and that is going to be based in Edinburgh. And what we announced at the autumn statement was additional money on top of all of that, mm-hmm. to really turbocharge our compute capacity. And we will keep coming back to this, and it's important that we have the compute capacity to be leading the way on this. And also you will have seen that Microsoft have just announced a sizable investment here in the UK, which again helps support our compute capacity as well.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of that supercomputer capacity, how will we stay up to date with technological advances?
So compute capacity is just one aspect of AI. Mm-hmm. One of the studies that I've read have said, Ben Buchanan describes it as the AI quartet, of which one factor is compute. One factor is also algorithms, one is data, and one is skills. And we're trying to make sure that we are investing in all of those, including in skills, where we've invested 290 million since 2014. But we're not going to miss a trick, if you like, and that's why we're also making sure that we are investing in compute, but we're also doing that not just with taxpayers' money, but working with private industry as well.
Okay. And final question from me for now. Should the investment in compute be viewed as a precursor to the UK establishing a sovereign large language model?
No, I think that investing in compute gives us more flexibility and capacity, but our priority needs to be in making sure that we are deploying AI appropriately throughout our public services, so that the general public is actually seizing the benefits of this. And that's the whole point as to why we need to grip the risks, because this is transformative, and it already is in our NHS, for instance. Just a few weeks ago, I saw surgeons use research into how surgeons can utilise AI to perform more knee surgeries in a day, which will help cut waiting lists. We already know that it is utilised in hospitals to detect strokes, to detect heart disease, to prevent strokes. So this technology is already in our public services. What we're talking about is being able to intensify and amplify that and make sure that we get the benefits to the public. We've just set up the Cabinet Office with Number 10 and accelerator incubator unit that will be looking at this very question. They've been hiring additional people to be able to facilitate that. We will be supporting with that, with our expertise that we have gathered in this area.
Thank you very much indeed. James.
Thank you, Chairman. A question about policy coherence, if I may. So the department has a science and technology framework. It has 6 priorities, as we've discussed. It has 15 or so strategies or visions. Who is responsible for ensuring coherence between all of those and key technologies, and how?
Well, ultimately, I'm the Secretary of State of the department, so it won't be me, and also the PermSec as well. And but it's not just, I would argue, down to our department. That was the whole point of doing the Science and Technology Framework, because it is a cross-Whitehall document. Our job now is to hold other government departments account, to make sure that we're on track and we're delivering against those 10 pillars, and that when we're spending on research and development, we're being strategic and we're being coordinated. And we've also set up a grouping of those departments so that we can have better clarity and a better cohesion between us all.
I mean, this is a very boring answer to an important question, but in a sort of boring procedural way. We have a central strategy and coordination team that sits at the heart of the department, that's responsible for looking after the science and technology framework in its entirety, including both the kind of cross-Whitehall, supporting the sort of cross-Whitehall activities the Secretary of State was talking about, but also working across our department to make sure, for example, those important linkages between AI and quantum, or semiconductors and AI, or telecoms and space. I think one of the really powerful things about DCIT actually is the strength of that web of connections across the department that lets us act in the system-oriented way described in the framework, rather than always kind of looking at a point solution to an individual issue.
Which was harder before the establishment of the department. So I was in DCMS, and so we had the majority of semiconductors, but not all of it, or like half basically. And we would have we had some of AI, but not all of AI. So this makes it much easier to be strategic and have that oversight.
Yeah, that's important, thank you. So leading on from that, a key element of the framework is the cross-departmental work to embed science, innovation and technology across government. How are you ensuring that is the case? What tools do you have to assist you in that?
Yeah, so by making sure that we are working across Whitehall, both at a ministerial level but also at an official level as well. So we have set up processes in the form of committees, really, to ensure that we're bringing government departments together. We also have a series of bilateral meetings, both at my level and also my junior ministers in the relevant departments. So for instance, yesterday, I met with the Secretary of State for the Department of Education, as one of the key pillars in that science and technology framework is skills.
And is that process working well?
Yes.
Yes, good. And when can we expect DCIT's outcome delivery plan to be published?
So we said we would do it within a year, and that's what we're going to do. So in line with the sort of anniversary of the department, in essence, and what we want to do is really showcase the progress that we've made, but also the progress that we've still got to make. This is a continual journey, and we want to be ambitious.
Apologies for a sort of slight technical correction. What the Secretary of State's talking about there is the Science and Technology Framework Update. I think you asked specifically about the ODP.
Oh, I meant the Science and Technology Framework.
I think the Science and Technology Framework Update will in fact cover a very great deal of content from the ODP. But as a technical matter, you may well have seen the letter from CST and the MCO to select committees that ODPs across government are remaining internal this year. But we would expect actually that update that the Secretary of State was talking about to be a really good opportunity to set out actually what is the majority of our ODP in a public form.
Thank you very much indeed. James Davis.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could turn to a hot topic, that of migration and the impact on UK as a global science superpower, how does the government intend to balance its drive to reduce net migration with the need to attract international talent in the science sector?
Yeah, so obviously the general public, my assessment when I have as a constituency MP, is that there is a great deal of concern about levels of legal migration as well as illegal migration, and we made manifesto commitments on this, so I think it is right that the government sticks to its word and deals with this. At the same time, absolutely, do we want to be attracting the very best and the brightest across the science and technology agenda? And we have various routes in to enable that to be possible, like the Global Talent visa, like the Scale-Up visa that's only been going about a year-ish, and the High Potential visa as well for students that are coming, graduates from some of the world's top universities. So there are many routes in to support the sectors that we represent. And in addition to that, we need to be making sure that we're growing the skills pipeline here in the UK, which is why we've invested so heavily in AI skills, 290 million since 2014, why we're investing in quantum skills, why we're investing in engineering biology, all the critical technologies that we've spoken about, and more.
Thank you. So in terms of the salary threshold now for skilled workers entering the country, many of them 38,700, that is somewhat above the average salary for a postdoc. For example, is an increase in salaries going to be required to tackle that?
There's a few things to this. So what has happened to date is there have been a number of exemptions in place, and we are in conversations as a government to outline exactly what, if any, exemptions would apply. So that would impact there. Yep. Also, as I said, there are other routes in as well, like the Global Talent visa that isn't pinned to salary, or there is more flexibility around some of the other visa routes.
Yeah, okay. That is positive to hear, but if there is nevertheless a requirement for some of those salaries to go up, could that funding be taken from current R&D allocations?
No, because if the purpose of an R&D grant was specified, it would have to be spent on what it was allocated for instance.
Okay. And so where would you anticipate the increase in funding to come from, or is that...
I think to be able to articulate the full impact that this will have, the full policy will have to be completely published, and then we can write to the committee once we've got any list of any exemptions in particular, and we can detail that.
Okay, thank you. And related to that discussion, there has been a concern about the increasing costs of visas and NHS surcharge and the impact, again, on attracting talent. And do you have any comments in that regard?
It hadn't gone up for over a decade in terms of the cost for the NHS surcharge. And obviously we had considerable inflation during that period of time. And somebody does have to pick up these tabs. And we know that the taxpayer equally has had to go through the cost of living challenges as well. And so I would argue that it wouldn't be fair necessarily to put that back onto them. But we still remain extremely internationally competitive. And when I've spoken to scientists and researchers and academics that have chosen to locate here, they tell me that they've chosen to come here over other nations because we're at the cutting edge of science across the board in many respects. We have fantastic infrastructure and facilities, and we've been continuing to invest in those since the department has been established. We have some of the world's best universities, 4 out of the top 10. You know, these things as well are the things that will really be the magnets to talent. And we also have the Global Talent Network, which is ensuring that we don't just hope that they come, but we actually go out there and try and attract them to come as well.
And final question from me for now. How are you ensuring the talent is spread fairly across the UK? So in other words, what is the department's contribution to the levelling up agenda?
We've got lots of work in this. So we've got the launch pads via Innovate UK. We've got the investment zones that we have supported on. One of the new pieces of work that we've been doing recently is our cluster mapping as well, which really illuminates what research and development and activity is in each area, so we can try and utilise that as, again, magnets for further investment. And we've been trying to get more of our research and development spend out of just the golden triangle. Yes, we need to recognise our USPs, but we need to make sure that it is spread across the nation. And if we look at the technologies that we're talking about, you know, they aren't concentrated in just the southeast. For instance, quantum. You know, we've got PSI Quantum based in Daresbury, which are world leading. So we do have great success stories, and we need to continue to double down on that.
I thought I'd do a sort of top nerd push, if I may, which is that 2023 was the first year that we published official statistics on R&D broken down on a regional level. And I think that's a really important piece of kind of foundational infrastructure that can now help inform the department's work going forward, and I think shows how seriously we're taking this question of understanding and building on the strengths from right across the UK for this work.
And we have our Salford office.
Yes, that will solve everything.
Thank you very much. It's all very encouraging to see. Early next year is going to be a very busy time for the department. James Davis.
Sticking with quantum, there's a concern about an international shortage of quantum skills. So what progress has been made in establishing the Quantum Skills Task Force and developing the Quantum Skills Action Plan?
Yeah, so the action plan will be published next year and informed via the task force. The task force has already had its first meeting and has been formed. We're also working with the Department for Education and developing a quantum apprenticeship programme, and we have pledged to train over 1,000 quantum PhD students over the next 10 years as well.